Hey, you guys!
I was just wondering how you get into the headspace of a character like this. I'm assuming there must have been quite a lot of kind of harrowing research involved, and it must have been quite upsetting at times.
Yeah, it's a part of the world that you don't really want to know that much about. Like, it gets really hard, in particular, when I started looking at the statistics of sexual abuse, and at least in the U.S., it's like the numbers are so high that it becomes sort of overwhelming and really upsetting, and you want to fight and do something about it. And so the fuel that I got from that, though, was I could tell a story as honestly as possible and connect people to that, into that feeling, and hopefully, you know, share that a little bit more, but share it in a way that's not so scary and fearful, but in a way that has some love and compassion towards it.
I mean, Jacob is terrific in the movie. I mean, it must always be really sad when you say goodbye to a kind of casting crew at the end of a project, but it must be doubly sad when you're saying goodbye to a sort of child that you've worked so closely with over the course of this film.
Yeah, and especially when he was 8 when we shot it, is 9 now, and so he's at that stage where he's just growing. I mean, every time I see him, he's got new teeth and he's getting taller, and I obviously have just such a connection with him that it's a very beautiful and at times sort of painful thing to watch him grow up, but I feel really lucky that I got to have the time with him that I did. Our goodbye took all day to do because he refused to say goodbye to me. I kept wanting to kind of do a wrap up with him and sort of thank him for all the hard work and how much I appreciated him and how much I loved him, and, you know, instill in him what an incredible actor he was and to keep going. And he just refused. Every time I would try and be like, so Jacob, he'd be like, nah, I'm not saying goodbye to you. I don't need to say goodbye. I'm going to see you again. I'm going to see you. And he did that all day until the very end of the day, where I finally was like, I really need you to say goodbye to me. And he tackled me to the ground.
Because it must be so... I've always wondered if it must be quite strange, because when you're sort of 8 years old and you're playing sort of make-believe and with someone who's supposed to be your mother and obviously have this really close bond, it must be quite strange for him. Was it quite strange for you as well?
No, it wasn't, because we were just best pals. And that's what I think, that the mother-son relationship that you're picking up on is just the affection that we had for one another as friends. We really just enjoyed each other and had such a good time. His mom was always around if he needed anything, but she was really great about kind of taking a bit of a step back when we were on set to allow us to connect on the level that we needed to for the film.
And we obviously see everything from Jack's perspective, even to an extent where there's some huge scenes like the kind of escape, and we don't really see what's happening to Joy during that moment. Do you pretend in your, like, what you would be going through at that time? Do you almost act it out yourself, or do you very much focus on just what's on the page?
Well, we shot everything, so the footage exists of what's going on with her. It's just more tense, I think, to not know what it is that she's doing.
Of course, I mean, there's naturally a deserved buzz for this movie. I mean, it's just one of the best films I've seen this year, and obviously a buzz around yourself in the whole kind of Oscar race. Is that something you pay attention to? Is that something you quite enjoy kind of being involved in, to have that whole kind of circus that circles around it?
It's an odd conversation, because it's just a conversation. Like, I imagine it's like talking about your fantasy wedding, but you don't have a boyfriend. Like, it's just sort of like it's a thing that's fun, that's there, but it's not in my reality yet. So I appreciate it, because it's the highest compliment I think you can get in my field. But if it means more people are going to see the movie, then I'm all for it.
Of course, you've got Ben Wheatley's Free Fire coming up. I saw his new one, High Rise, the other day, which is completely insane.
Yeah, I know. Isn't it fantastic, though?
It's like
amazing.
Are you a big fan of his work? And you must be quite looking forward to collaborating with him.
I am such a huge fan of his work. I think that he's absolutely brilliant. It was a pleasure to work with him. I want to do so many movies with him. I think he's the best.
And obviously Kong's Skull Island as well. I mean, that's your sort of first kind of big foray into the blockbuster. When does that sort of get started, and how does your character sort of fit into that story?
Well, it just fits in. You'll have to see the movie to know how it fits in, but it does fit in, and we start very soon.
Brilliant. We're looking forward to it.
Thank you
so much. I'm not going to ask you if you've read the book, by the way.
Praise you.
It's just the way of that question.
Praise. Thank you for assuming that I've already read it.
Yeah.
Given the movie.
I know. So
There's a book, and I read it.
My first question: have you read? No, I'm joking.
There's a book?
Of course.
Wait a second. Did you know that?
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey, you guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey,